Let's get started. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the session. If you're wondering how you can easily migrate your content to Microsoft 365, then you came to the right session. My name is Hani Loza. I'm a Principal PM Manager in the SharePoint and OneDrive team. Our migration team is responsible for helping you throughout your journey to the cloud. I look forward to be here every year to present all the great work that the team has made in order to help you through your migration to the cloud.
Hey everyone, I'm Yogesh Ratnabarki. I'm a Principal PM on Hani's team, and I'm super excited to be here and share our migration offering to you today.
Awesome. Thanks, Yogesh. So I'm sure by now, many of you have attended multiple sessions throughout this conference to learn about the great capabilities in SharePoint and OneDrive and how these features can truly modernize the productivity of your organization. Now the questions become, how can you migrate your content to the cloud? And how can you navigate the complexities of these migrations? And that's where we come in. Our goal is to arm you with tools and options that will help you make your migration to the cloud free and easy. So this session is going to be packed. We have a lot of announcements, a lot of demos. By the end of this session, you will learn about the new capabilities in SharePoint Migration Tool that will help you migrate your on-premises content to the cloud. We've heard your feedback about how complex migrations could get, especially the large migrations. So we'll share with you new solutions and new features that can simplify these complexities tremendously. Finally, we'll talk about new solutions that you can use today for free to migrate your content from third-party cloud providers to the cloud. Sound like a good agenda? Awesome. All right. How many of you already know about the SharePoint Migration Tool? Good. How many of you use the SharePoint Migration Tool to migrate to the cloud? OK. Sounds good. Awesome. Anyway, this is great. I love that every conference I ask these two questions, and more hands come up, so that's great. All right, for some of you who are new to the SharePoint Migration Tool, it's a fast and simple migration solution that is developed and supported by Microsoft. You can use the tool to drive adoption and migrate content to Teams, SharePoint, and OneDrive. And you can do that by migrating content out of file shares, SharePoint 2013, and newly announced SharePoint 2010. How many of you still run 2010 in your organization? Oh, quite a few. All right. As you know, SharePoint 2010 is going out to support next year, specifically October 2020. So this is a good opportunity to leverage the new capabilities and migrate your content out of 2010 directly to the cloud. Let me show you how easy it is to get to the cloud. So this is my team's site that I actively collaborate on with my team. It's called Drone Sales. And as you can see, typical SharePoint 2010 team site has my title, some description, my icon. On my homepage, I have a shared document that holds the content that we actively collaborate on. I also have some lists that I use. Also, I have a page that aggregates a lot of this information. So I have a picture that is kind of the top picture of the month, and also other photos in a photo library for photos that we use in our sales events. Also, I have a calendar that has events, sales events that we need to be aware of and plan for. We also have a list to track some of our drone sales activities. Notice on this list, I use some content types and some taxonomy terms as well. Finally, I have a list that tracks some of the tasks that we need to complete before we come here to Ignite. Last thing I want to point out is we have the sub-site pre-sales prototype that we actively use as we do some pre-sales engagements. So my organization, Contoso Electronics, recently rolled out Teams as well. And now I have a SharePoint team site in the cloud that is connected to Microsoft Teams. My team site, again, Drone Sales, I have a channel called Contracts. So my goal is to migrate my content to the cloud and start using the great capabilities that I've learned about throughout this conference. To do so, I'm going to start with my SharePoint Migration Tool. I'm going to start my first migration. As you see, the tool supports migration out of SharePoint Server 2010-2013. We can also migrate content out of file shares. We also make it easy to migrate large migrations by having a pre-populated CSV file that you load once into the tool, and then the tool is going to parse through and migrate one site after the other. In this case, I'm going to select SharePoint Server. The first thing that you need to do is give the source URL that you want to migrate from. The tool is going to quickly check that I put the right URL, and I have the permissions to access this site. Because I have a subsite that I care about, I'm going to select to include the subsite as part of this migration. Next, I get to choose whether I want to migrate a specific library or I want to migrate everything in this site, including the libraries, the pages, and the web parts. This is exactly what I want to do, so I'm going to simply click Next. And now I'm going to select the site, my destination site. Notice that the tool already pre-populates that destination site for me based on the tenant that I logged into and my path from on-prem. But because I have a site that already exists, Drone Sales, I'm going to put that in. Again, the tool is going to do a quick check, make sure that the URL is valid, and I have permissions to write to this destination site. The tool tells me that the content is ready to move to that. The site already exists. The good part is if the URL that I enter, the site did not exist, the tool will automatically create a modern theme site for me, making it much simpler to do that within the process of the tool. So now I'm happy with that. I'm going to click Next. In the next screen, I get to review my migration task. I can give it a friendly name if I need to. I can verify my source, my destination. I can proceed forward, or I have a choice to add another task. In this case, I would like to add a file share migration task. I track my contracts on a file share, and I want to move that also to the cloud. So I'm going to put, I'm going to put the path, the UNC path, or my mapped drive to my contracts folder that is on-prem, file share on-prem. Clicking Next, again, I need to specify the URL, destination URL. I'm going to put the same one, which is Drone Sales. Again, the tool is going to verify that everything I enter is correct. And once that's done, because I'm just moving content, the tool allows me to select which document library do I need to migrate the content to. If I have multiple document libraries, I have the choice to do that. So in this case, I want to select Documents. And the latest version of this tool, I can now create a folder or select an existing folder to move content to. So I'm going to select the contracts. And again, remember, this was the channel in Teams that was created. So I'm going to select that and proceed. Again, I get to review the tasks I have. This is my on-prem. This is my file share. I can save this and run it later, or I can simply click Next to proceed with my migration. Before I migrate, I have a chance to select some settings to make this migration exactly how I want it to be. I can choose to perform scanning only. In this case, no content is going to be migrated, but we're going to scan the source environment. We're going to give you a very simple report with all the content that is ready to migrate and all the content that needs to be remediated before migration. You have the option to select permissions, whether you want to migrate the permissions as well, and also if you have file versions, whether you want to retain the versions or skip them. There's other settings that you have flexibility to use. For example, if you decide to move versions, you can specify how many versions to migrate. Again, this is very important because it reduces the amount of content to be migrated. you can filter the content based on created after, modified after. So you only migrate content that is new and it's relevant. Finally, you have the option to exclude some file extensions like PST file or music files or whatever. You can exclude those to make the migration exactly what you want it to be in the cloud. I'm happy with how the settings are, so at that point, I'm ready to click Migrate. And at that point, I'm presented with a simple screen to track the progress of this migration. I have an all-up progress. Also, I have the progress for each individual task. I can view the report for each one. I can pause and later resume this task, or I can just simply delete it. As you can see, it started migrating already. So I've migrated a site earlier. This is a site that I migrated earlier in the day. Notice that I land on a modern team site with my document library and all my content migrated with all the metadata preserved. You've got the site name and metadata, site logo already migrated, preserving the fidelity there. All my lists that I had on-prem migrated correctly. If you notice the left nav as well, we have a picture on the left nav, and my page already shows there. So we're preserving your nav structure as well, both the top nav and the side nav. When we look at the page as it loads, notice that all the web parts exists and the layout on the page array preserved. My picture, my photo library, my calendar with all the events already intact, completely migrated. Even my lists with the different content types and taxonomy terms, those were migrated, giving you a full fidelity of what you had on-prem. I can start collaborating with my team right away. Finally, I'll bring your attention to the top nav here, and my pre-sales prototype subsite was migrated as well. So everything that I had on-prem, migrated, few clicks. If I switch to Teams, if I go under Contracts, and I see my files also migrated correctly with all the metadata preserved, I'm ready to collaborate with my team using all these modern experiences just by doing a couple of simple clicks. How easy was that? Awesome. So just to recap, you can use the SharePoint Migration Tool today to migrate your sites out of SharePoint 2013 and SharePoint 2010. And you've seen great fidelity, including the taxonomy and the content type and many other core scenarios. We've listened to your feedback, and now you have the ability to select the folder or the Teams channel to help you organize your content as you migrate to the cloud. We've updated the installer, so now you have a fast and reliable installer to get to your migration project in seconds. Finally, to make it easier for you to find the SharePoint Migration Tool, we've added a download link right from your SharePoint 2010 and 2013 central admin page. All of these new features are built on top of the existing great functionality in SharePoint Migration Tool, including our support for bulk migration. I showed you that you can select a CSV, where you can have a pre-created CSV file with all the sources and destination for hundreds or thousands of these sites or folders. Upload that once to the tool. The tool is going to parse through and iterate through migrating all of these individual tasks, making it easy for you to do that at bulk. The tool has a built-in content assessment, so you have a very consistent outcome at the end of the migration. You will get a simple report that would tell you what content is ready to migrate and what issues you might encounter. You might want to remediate that before the migration. The SharePoint Migration Tool always run in incremental mode. This is extremely powerful because with incremental mode, only the content that has changed on the source will be migrated, giving you the ability to have productivity on your source. So your users can continue work while the migration is happening in the background. And when you're ready to snap over to the destination, that's the time when you lock it. You only migrate the delta, and then you're reducing the amount of content that you need to migrate every time. And because the tool is free, you have the option to run the migration however you want. As an IT admin for the organization, you can use the tool to migrate everybody in your organization. You can delegate that to different departmental IT admins so they can run the migration at their own pace, at their own time. And as you've seen, simple clicks, an end user can run the migration themselves if you need to. Finally, everything I've showed you in the UI, you can script through PowerShell, giving you the ability to automate all the migration activities and extend it with whatever workflows or business processes to meet the needs of your organization. Cool? So we've seen that excitement as well. Since we released about less than 2 years ago, there has been phenomenal adoption of the tool. More than 50,000 organizations have used the SharePoint Migration Tool to migrate more than 18 petabytes of data. That's 18 petabytes of data in less than a couple of years. 400% increase year over year. We're extremely proud of the impact that the tool is having on helping our customers move to the cloud. And our customers have used it in all kinds of projects, large and small. For example, a single pharmaceutical company migrated more than 500 terabytes across 110,000 users. 500 terabytes of content. Single university migrated more than 300 terabytes of content. Others from energy, retailers, automotive, across all different industries, customers have used the tool to get their users to the cloud. So now this is your turn. If you have not downloaded the tool, go ahead, download it, install it, and get started with your migration project. Okay? So in addition to the SharePoint Migration Tool, I want to bring your attention to the assessment tool. Before you migrate anything from SharePoint, you need to understand what content that you have on-prem. And that's where the assessment tool can help you scan and discover content in your SharePoint 2010 and 2013. And once you have this understanding of the content that you have, you can build your migration plan and decide which sites are ready to migrate, which sites are no longer being used, and now you can leave it behind, reducing the cost and complexity of your migration. And what are the solutions that are still important for you, and you get to rebuild those using cloud technologies. So now with the SharePoint Assessment Tool, the SharePoint Migration Tool, now you have free and easy options to get your on-premises content to the cloud. How easy was that?
Thanks, Hani. You saw how easy it is to use SPMT to migrate your content. When it comes to large migrations, though, you're soon limited by the single machine where you run this tool from. So to optimize the throughput, you can distribute your migration across multiple machines running SPMT. You will need to break your file into multiple smaller files and upload them individually on these machines and run your migration. But we admit, this process is fraught with challenges. Imagine having to manually split your file and uploading individually. It's time-consuming. And you need resources to manage this distributed migration across multiple machines. And finally, the whole process is complex and error-prone. How many of you can actually relate to this problem? So that resonates with what we see. A fifth of our customers actually use 2 or more SPMT to actually run their large migrations. And the feedback is loud and clear. We have to simplify large file share migrations. So we're pleased to introduce Migration Manager. With Migration Manager, you can orchestrate thousands of migration activities right from the SharePoint Admin Center. Let me show you through a live demo. So I am the IT admin of Contoso Electronics, and I have terabytes of data sitting on my file shares that I want to migrate to the cloud. Usually, there are 3 steps that I need to do to migrate this large content. Step 1 is to set up my local environment. Step 2 is to create and orchestrate large number of activities across multiple machines. And step 3 is to monitor and report out the progress to my stakeholders. Let's see how Migration Manager simplifies all of these 3 steps right from the Admin Center. So from the modern admin experience, I click on the Migration Manager from the left nav. And as a first-time user, I'm presented with this screen that clearly walks me to my first step, which is to set up my local environment. What that means is I need to link this Migration Manager to the local network. And for that, I need to download a client setup file. I've already downloaded this file, and the setup is pretty simple. All I need to do is sign into the Office 365 tenant, and then I need to sign in to the Windows account that has access to the local file share. Once I do that, the setup starts installing the client as a service. That way, even if the machine is not logged in, the client continues to run. And if the machine reboots, the client automatically reboots. The client even automatically updates itself. How awesome is that? The best part is once I finish setup, I don't have to touch this machine ever again, because now I can manage this right from the SharePoint Admin Center. Notice the client that I just installed is lit up. The green status indicates it's ready to take on my migration. And with that, I'm done with my step 1. I have linked Migration Manager to the local environment and I'm ready to take on my first migration task. How easy was that? Perfect. To create my first task, just like SPMT, I can create the add task, and I can choose a single or a bulk task. To pilot, I'll go with a single task. Here I enter a network file share, and then I specify the destination URL where I want to migrate this content to. The root site is the default, but I can set it to a sub-site where I want to migrate this content. I will name this a pilot, and I can review the settings just like I in SPMT. I'm happy with what I have on the default settings, so I hit run now. The task is now getting added to the queue. Notice the status is pending, meaning it is getting routed to the client that we just installed. So that was easy. Now I'm ready to create my large migration. This time I pick the bulk migration option. I have pre-created a CSV which lets me migrate multiple source and destination mappings. And with that, I'm ready to create my batch 1 of migration.
How do you handle throttling?
We'll address that when we come back.
Okay, thank you.
Let's wait to that question. Thank you. So the batch is now processing, and it's a large batch, and I need to scale this batch. Based on the size, I need actually multiple clients. And to do that, all I need to do is click on the Clients Add tab and add another client to a machine where I want to run migration from. Let me fast forward you to a step where I now have 5 clients installed and running my migrations in parallel. So I can also give it a friendly name when I have multiple clients for easy reference. So let's say this client is running on Omaha Data Center, and I can do that by giving it a friendly name. I can disable a client if I ever want to take it out of the pool by clicking this drop-down. For now, I'm happy with this, so I hit save, and now the client has a friendly name. And just like that, I'm done with step 2. So I created hundreds of migration tasks from the browser, and they're distributed across multiple clients. Now I'm ready for my step 3, which is to monitor and report out the progress. Notice the tasks are automatically distributed across multiple clients. I don't need to manually break my task file anymore. Everything was done for me. And I can now start monitoring the progress and get into details. So let's say task 1, I can see that it's done, it's complete, but I can also download a task-level detailed report from this link. From the settings, I can tweak anything if I want to rerun this particular task. Let's say I want to rerun with hidden files this time. And as Hani mentioned, we always run our task incrementally. So you save the progress from your previous run, saving you time. You can pause a task if it's already running. You can even delete a task if you want to ever take it out of the pool. Let's say I want to run another batch with a different settings. I can do that by applying the global settings. Say I want to filter files created after a certain date. I can do that by this checkbox. And any new task created after this will inherit these settings. And finally, I can download an aggregated summary report by clicking 2 or more tasks. Notice the tasks are distributed across multiple clients, but I can download a report from my browser, which is super convenient. And not only that, but I can do pretty much everything once my environment is set up from the SharePoint Admin Center, which is super convenient and simplifies your large-scale migration. To recap, the Migration Manager lets you centralize your task management from the browser. It automatically load balances your task across as many clients you create. And finally, you can do all of this from the SharePoint Admin Center. How awesome is that? How many of you would like to use this in your tenant? Awesome. So your wish is granted. We're super pleased and proud to announce the public preview of this functionality during Ignite. What that means is you should be able to use this in the next few weeks. We would love your feedback. So we encourage you to try and use this functionality and come back with your inputs and suggestions. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you, Yogesh. So far, we went through the new investments in the SharePoint Migration Tool to help you migrate your content to the cloud from on-premises. You've seen Migration Manager, and you can leverage this capability to simplify your large migration. Now, how can we help you with cloud migration? And with that, I'm very excited about our recent acquisition of Mover. Mover is specialized in migrating all kinds of customers from other cloud storage providers like Box and Google Drive and Dropbox. And to tell you more about Mover, I'd like to invite Eric Warnke, the former CEO of Mover, and now a principal PM manager in the SharePoint and OneDrive team.
Thanks, Amy. Hi, everyone. My name is Eric Warnke. Along with my co-founder, Mark Fossen, and my amazing team, I'm really glad to be able to be here and talk to you about Mover. Originally, we created Mover to solve a personal problem, but over the years of iteration and a lot of mistakes, we became one of the best ways to get your data from other clouds into Microsoft 365. We were user-driven and customer-focused from day one, and I'm really proud to be able to bring everything that we learned into Microsoft. So without further ado, I'd like to do a live demo of the Mover web app. Mover operates under the principles of you creating a migration that has a source and a destination, and then you fill it with some transfers or some users. So let's bring some data out of box. I've taken the liberty pre-authenticating our connectors, but you should know that we use OAuth to keep your credentials safe. Similarly, let's put this data into OneDrive. You can see here that we've automatically discovered how many users you have on your source and your destination. Let's continue and actually create that migration. Now, this is our migration manager. It has a variety of components, such as a list of all the different migrations you might create over time. We have a bunch of actions. You can modify the interface, generate reports, and take a variety of different actions on your actual migration. And then down here, we have a user table. It's empty, which isn't very useful, so we should probably add some users. And we can do this in 2 different ways. We can create a bulk CSV that can handle tens, thousands, and this has actually migrated millions of users. You can create that with a source and destination where you reference paths, or we can actually automatically discover your accounts for you. So when we do this, we attempt to line up the usernames and IDs between the different sources and destinations and make your job easier. You can see here, we have a really nicely lined up demo where Contoso Electronics and Box equals the equivalent users in OneDrive, but we don't actually know what they contain. So let's scan them and figure that out. I've selected all the users, and I've just hit scan. This goes into a giant queue that processes this all automatically. And a scan is exactly like it sounds. We iterate over every single file and folder that you have. We create log files for it. And you can generate reports, such as long paths, types of file types, file sizes, et cetera, to help you plan your migration. Now, at any point, you can actually migrate a user. Before that, we need to know who they might collaborate with. So we call this a permission map. Again, you can create a CSV or automatically discover. And this is important because you might have different domains between different systems, IDs change, and you might even have groups that aren't named the same. Again, I'm going to auto-discover. We can see here that this Box account actually has my old mover.io domain, as well as the Contoso Electronics. And we're mapping both of those to the new Office 365. Here we have some groups that are actually orphaned. So for example, all hands might actually be called team inside Office 365. And when we share folders with users who are already collaborating on team, we want to make sure that they're actually getting that access once it's migrated. So we'll save this, and let's actually migrate someone. We can see here that Adele has finished. She's got about 1,000 files. We'll select her and start migrating. But we're big fans of packing your parachutes before you jump, so we want to tell you exactly what you're about to do. We ask you to confirm your source and your destination that you've set up. You can schedule this to happen right now or in the future. And again, it goes back into the queue and starts processing. This time, it will probably move some data. Now, a transfer has a lot of information behind it. A lot of metadata, timestamps, times run. But one of the best things that I like about our transfers is our logs, and I think that you guys will love it too. So our logs are real time, and you can see that that loaded pretty instantly. They have all the information you need to help troubleshoot a transfer. Of course, this scan is successful, but any errors that might show up are here, and we try and make them as clear as possible to help you out. One of my favorite features is we can actually filter those log files for anything that you might need to look at. For example, Mover converts box notes into Word documents right now, and you can see which ones you might be working with here. So that's the end of the demo. Let's go back to... So Mover has been used to migrate some of the largest companies in the world. We were purpose-built from day one for administrators and end users of enterprises, both small and large. You can create migrations from a variety of sources, such as Google Drive, Dropbox, and Box. You can manage those migrations without ever leaving your browser, and you can do it all today for free. We're available in North America right now, with the rest of the world to come. And if you want to try us out, please visit mover.io or aka.ms/mover. Thanks.
Thank you, Eric. Awesome. We're super excited about partnering with Mover and bringing more capabilities to you all to migrate your content to the cloud. So now let's bring it all together. So now you have a broad set of capabilities to help you migrate data from on-premises You can use SharePoint Migration Tool to get your file share, SharePoint on-premises to the cloud. You can leverage Mover to get your cloud files from out of a lot of different storage providers. And if you need helping hand with your migration, we have the fast track migration benefit that can help you with the migration itself. They've migrated thousands of users. They developed great best practices, all from scanning, from communication, all the way to actually doing the migration for you. They're available for free for customers with 500 seats or more. So I encourage you all, reach out to the Fast Track, learn more about their benefit, and get started with your migration. And for all other migration needs that goes beyond our first-party tool, we have a great ecosystem of partners that can help you with any additional need to finish your migration project. So between our first-party self-serve tool, Fast Track helping you as part of the Fast Track benefit, and the third-party tool, you have all the options you need to complete your migration project. So I want to give you kind of a glimpse view of our next steps here. For the SharePoint Migration Tool, you can use it for SharePoint 2010, 2013 site migration. We heard your feedback. We're working to enable the same scenarios for SharePoint 2016 and eventually 2019. For Migration Manager, we're launching the public preview for file share scenarios today. And we're going to, based on your feedback, bring it to GA early next year and add more capabilities to bring parity with the SharePoint Migration Tool, especially lighting up the SharePoint on-prem scenarios as well. Finally, for the cloud files, as Eric mentioned, you can use it today for free. It's available for North American customers, and we're working hard to enable it worldwide very soon. So now just to recap this session, all of this you can use today. Leverage the SharePoint Migration Tool to get your on-premises content to the cloud. For your large migration, start with Migration Manager and start using Mover to get your cloud files to Microsoft 365. With that, I want to thank you. And I'd like to invite Eric and Yigesh for questions. And if we run out of time, we can always stand outside. We've got a lot of members from the migration team that can help answer some of these questions as well. Thank you.